MySpace, formerly stylized as MySpace, was a social networking service based in the United States. Launched on August 1st, 2003, the site was the first social network to reach a global audience and had a significant influence on technology, pop culture, and music. The site played a critical role in the early growth of companies like YouTube and created a developer platform that launched the success of Zynga, Rockyou, Photobucket, among others. From 2005 to 2009, MySpace was the largest social networking site in the world. In July 2005, MySpace was acquired by News Corporation for fucking piece of shit for $580 million, and in June 2006, it surpassed Yahoo and Google to become the most visited website in the United States. It generated $800 million in revenue during the 2008 fiscal year. At its peak in April 2008, MySpace and Facebook reached 115 million unique users, but MySpace narrowly lost it due to the newly emerging Facebook in terms of global users. In May 2009, Facebook surpassed MySpace in the number of unique US visitors. Since then, the number of MySpace users has declined steadily despite several redesigns. By 2019, the site's monthly visitors had dropped to 7 million. In June 2009, MySpace employed approximately 1,600 employees. In June 2011, Specific Media Group and Justin Timberlake jointly purchased the company for approximately $35 million. On February 11, 2016, it was announced that MySpace and its parent company had been purchased by Time Inc. Time Inc. was in turn purchased by the Meredith Corporation on January 31, 2018. On November 4, 2019, Meredith spun off MySpace and its original holding company, Viant Technology Holding Inc., and sold it to Viant Technology. In August 2003, several e-universe employees with Friendster accounts saw potential in its social networking features. The group decided to mimic the more popular features of the website. Within 10 days, the first version of MySpace was ready to launch, implemented using Cold Fusion. A complete infrastructure of finance, human resources, technical expertise, bandwidth, and server capacity were available for the site. The project was overseen by Grad Greaston, eUniverse's founder, chairman, and CEO, who managed Chris D. Wolf, MySpace starting CEO, Josh Berman, Tom Anderson, who was MySpace's starting president, and a team of programmers and resources provided by eUniverse. It was during this early period in June 2003, just prior to the birth of MySpace, that Jeffrey Edel was brought on as chairman of the parent company, Intermix Media. The first MySpace users were eUniverse employees. The company held contests to see who could sign up the most users. eUniverse used its more than 20 million users and email subscribers to breathe life into MySpace and move it into the head of the pack of social media networking sites. A key architect was tech expert Tone Nguyen, who helped stabilize the platform when Greenspan asked him to join the team. Co-founder and CTO Aber Whitcomb played an integral role in software architecture, using the then superior development speed of Cold Fusion over other dynamic databases-driven server-side languages at the time. Despite having over 10 times the number of developers, Friendster, which was developed in Java Server Pages, JSP, could not keep up with the speed of development of MySpace and CFM. For example, users could customize the background, look, and feel of the pages on MySpace. The MySpace.com domain was originally owned by YourZ Inc., intended until 2002 for its use as an online data storage and sharing site. By late 2003, it was transitioned from a file storage service to a social networking site. A friend who also worked in the data storage business reminded DeWolf that he had earlier bought the MySpace.com domain. DeWolf suggested that they charge a fee for the basic MySpace service. However, Greenspan nixed the idea, believing that keeping the site free was necessary to make it a successful community. MySpace quickly gained popularity among teenagers and young adults. In February 2005, DeWolf held talks with Mark Zuckerberg over acquiring Facebook, but rejected Zuckerberg's offer to sell Facebook for him to $75 million. Some employees of MySpace, including DeWolf and Berman, were not able to purchase equity in the property before MySpace and its parent company, Universe, were bought. In July 2005, in one of the company's first major internet purchases, News Corporation purchased MySpace for $580 million US. At the time of the acquisition, the company was seeing 16 million monthly users and was growing exponentially. News Corporation had beat out Viacom by offering a higher price for the website, and the purchase was seen as a good investment at the time. Within the year, MySpace had tripled its value from its purchase price. News Corporation saw the purchase as a way to capitalize on internet advertising and drive traffic to other News Corporation properties. After the acquisition, MySpace continued its exponential growth. In January 2006, the site was signing up 200,000 users a day. A year later, it was registering 3,200,000 users a day and had overtaken Yahoo to become the most visited website in the United States. Comscore said that a key driver of the site's success in the US was high engagement levels, with the average MySpace user viewing over 660 pages a month. In January 2006, Fox announced plans to launch a UK version of MySpace. During 2006, MySpace launched localized versions in 11 countries across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. At the same time, Travis Katz, Senior Vice President for International Operations, reported that 30 million of the site's 90 million users were coming from outside of the United States. The 100 millionth MySpace account was created on August 9, 2006, in the Netherlands. That same month, MySpace signed a landmark advertising deal with Google that guaranteed MySpace $900 million over 3 years, over 55% more than Price News had. That same month, MySpace signed a landmark advertising deal with Google that guaranteed MySpace over $900 million over 3 years, over 55% more than the Price News Corporation had paid to acquire the business. In exchange, Google received exclusive rights to provide web search results and sponsor link on MySpace. When the deal was signed, Google chairman Eric Schmidt said, When we look at what was growing on the web, all our internal metrics pointed to MySpace. It's important to move Google to where our users are, and that is where user-generated content is." By October 2006, MySpace had grown from generating $1 million in revenue per month to $30 million per month, half of which came from the Google deal. The remaining 50% came from display advertising sold by MySpace's in-house sales team. In November 2006, MySpace announced a 50-50 joint venture with SoftBank to launch the site in Japan. In mid-2007, MySpace was the largest social networking site in every European country where it had created a local presence. By July 2007, Nielsen Net Ratings reported the company's active reach, or the percentage of the population that visited the site, was anywhere from 10 to 15 times higher in Spain, France, and Germany than for the runner-up Facebook. In the United Kingdom, MySpace led Facebook by a 2-to-1 in terms of reach. On November 1st, 2007, MySpace and Beepo joined the Google-led Open Social Alliance, which already included Friendster, High5, LinkedIn, Plaxo, Ning, and 6apart. The Alliance's goal was to promote a common set of standards for software developers to write programs for social networks. Google had been unsuccessfully building its own social network site, Orkut, in the American market and was using the Alliance to present a counterweight to Facebook. By late 2007 and into 2008, MySpace was considered the leading social networking site and was constantly beat out by its main competitor in Facebook in traffic. Initially, the emergence of Facebook did little to diminish MySpace's popularity. At the time, Facebook was targeted only at college students. At its peak, when News Corporation attempted to merge it with Yahoo in 2007, MySpace was valued at $12 billion. Fucking piece of shit, piece of dumbass fucking garbage. I fucking suck! On April 16th, 2008, Facebook overtook MySpace in Alexa ratings. In May 2009, Facebook surpassed MySpace in the In May 2009, Facebook surpassed MySpace in the number of unique US visitors. Since then, MySpace has seen a continuous loss of membership. There are several suggested explanations for its decline, including the fact that it stuck to a portal strategy of building an audience around entertainment and music, whereas Facebook and Twitter continually added new features to improve the social networking experience. A former MySpace executive suggested that the $900 million three-year advertising deal with Google, while being a short-term cash windfall, was a handicap in the long run, as it required MySpace to place even more ads on its already healthily advertised space, which made the site slow, more difficult to use, and less flexible. MySpace could not compete with its own site without forfeiting revenue, while Facebook was rolling out new, clean site design. MySpace CEO Chris DeWolf reported that he had to push back against Fox Interactive Media's sales team, who monetized the site without regard to user experience. In 2012, Katz described how News Corporation had put a significant pressure on MySpace to, quote, focus on near-term monetization as opposed to thinking about long-term product strategy, while Facebook, end quote, focused on user engagement over revenue. Donna Boyd, a senior researcher at Microsoft Research, noted of social networking websites that, quote, companies might serially rise, fall, and disappear as influential peers pull. Dara Boyd, a senior researcher at Microsoft Research, noted of social networking. Dana Boyd, a senior researcher at Microsoft Research, noted of social networking websites that, quote, might serially rise, fall, and disappear as influential peers pull others in and climb up to the top and signal to flee when it's time to get out, end quote. The volatility of social networks was exemplified in 2006 when Connecticut Attorney General Richard Blumenthal launched an investigation into children's exposure to pornographic on MySpace. The resulting media frenzy in the site's lack of an effective spam filter gave the site a reputation as a vortex of perversion. Around that time, specialized social media companies such as Twitter formed and began targeting users on MySpace, while Facebook rolled out its communication tools that were seen as safe in comparison to MySpace. In addition, MySpace had particular problems with vandalism, phishing, malware, and spam, which it failed to curtail, making the site seem inhospitable. These have been cited as factors why users, who as teenagers were MySpace's strongest audience in 2006 and 2007, had been migrating to Facebook, which started strongly within the 18 to 24 group, mostly college students, and had been much more successful than MySpace at attracting older users. News Corporation chairman and CEO Robert Murdoch was said to have been frustrated that MySpace never met expectations as a distribution outlet for Fox Studio content and missed the US $1 billion mark in terms of total revenues. This resulted in DeWolf and Anderson gradually losing their status within Murdoch's inner circle of executives, as well as DeWolf's mentor, Peter Cherman, president and COO of News Corporation, departing in the company in June 2009. Former AOL executive Jonathan Miller, who joined News Corporation in charge of digital media business, was in the job for 3 weeks when he shuffled MySpace's executive team in April 2009. MySpace president Tom Anderson stepped down while Chris DeWolf was being replaced as CEO by former Facebook COO Owen Van Natta. A meeting at the News Corporation over the direction of MySpace in March 2009 was reportedly the catalyst for that management shakeup when the Google search deal about to expire and the departure of the key personnel, MySpace's COO, SVP of Engineering, and SVP of Strategy, to form a startup. Furthermore, the opening of extravagant new offices around the world was questioned, as Facebook did not have similarly expensive expansion plans but still attracted international users at a rapid rate. The changes to MySpace's executive ranks were followed in June 2009 by a layoff of 37.5% of its workforce, including 30% of its US employees, reducing its employees from 1,600 to 1,000. In 2009, MySpace implemented site redesigns as a way to get users back. However, this may have backfired as users generally disliked tweaks and the changes on Facebook. In March 2011, market research's figures released by Comscore suggested that MySpace had lost 10 million users between January and February 2011, and had fallen from 95 million to 63 million unique users from the previous 12 months. MySpace registers its sharp audience declines in February 11th as traffic fell 44% from a year earlier to 37. What the fuck? MySpace registers its sharpest audience decline in February 2011 as traffic fell 44% from a year earlier to 37.7 million US visitors. Advertisers were reportedly as unwilling to commit to long-term deals with the site. In late February 2011, News Corporation officially put the site up for sale at an estimated 50 to 200 million. Losses from the last quarter of 2010 were at 156 million, over double the previous year, which dragged down the otherwise strong results of News Corporation. The deadline for bids, May 31st, 2011, passed without any above the reserve price of 100 million being submitted. It had been said that the decline of users in the most recent quarter deterred several potential suitors. On June 29th, 2011, MySpace announced in an email to label partners and press that it had been acquired by Specific Media for an undisclosed sum, which was rumored to be as low as 35 million. CNN reported that the site sold for 35 million and noted that it was, quote, far less than the 580 million News Corp paid for MySpace in 2005, end quote. Murdoch went on to call MySpace purchase a, quote, huge mistake, end quote, and Time magazine compared it to Time Warner's 2000 purchase of AOL, which saw a conglomerate trying to stay ahead of the competition. Many former executives have gone on to further success after departing MySpace. On February 11th, 2016, it was announced that MySpace and its parent company had been bought by Time Inc. On January 31st, 2018, Time Inc. was in turn purchased by the Meredith Corporation, who wanted to sell a number of Time Inc.'s assets, including, as it was announced on November 4th, 2019, selling its equity in Viant, the parent company of Specific Media, back to Viant Technology Holding, Inc. In May 2006, the data for almost 360 million MySpace accounts was offered on the Real Deal dark market website, which included email addresses, usernames, and weakly encrypted passwords, SHA-1 hashes of the first 10 characters of the passwords converted to lowercase and stored without a cryptographic salt. The exact data breach date is unknown, but analysis of the data suggests it was exposed around 8 years before being made public around mid-2008 to early 2009. Please like the video if you did. Please dislike the video if you did. Please subscribe if you did. Please turn on the bell if you did. Please send me money. My PayPal is